Welcome to episode number 44 of Just Go Grind, a show that focuses on helping you launch and grow a business and navigate the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. I'm Justin Gordon, your host, and in this episode we have Chris Bentley, who is an award-winning Dallas realtor. He also started and grew, and now he runs the Plano Socialites Facebook group, which has all these different events going on in Plano, Texas, as well as Dallas, Texas, and not these stuffy, typical networking events you kind of see, but also some fun things in different venues. So he runs that as well, and he also has had multiple different entrepreneurial ventures throughout his career. He's had to overcome being broke to get to this point he's at now. It's really an incredible story and such a fun discussion to hear more about what he's all doing. As always, the show notes are at justgogrind.com/podcast. And in iTunes, Apple Podcasts, you can support the show by leaving a rating and review and subscribing to the show there as well. And recently, I began coaching, helping people launch and grow businesses, helping people launch podcasts, providing some insights into this whole business world or podcasting at justgogrind.com/coaching. So go ahead and check that out. Without further ado, here is Chris Bentley. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. How are you?
Good, man. And I'm excited to talk about some real estate stuff on your whole career and how you've grown it and different things you've been working on. And I guess I wanted to start at the beginning really with just how you even got into real estate in the first place. I know you've been in it for a matter of years.
There was a guy that was really killing it in real estate. And at the time I graduated I got a 2-year degree at the time. And then I got kind of recruited into multi-level marketing for financial services. And we were doing at the time also mortgage loan origination because it was really hot at the time. It was kind of like the boom.
Yeah.
And everybody was a mortgage originator. So we wanted kind of our piece of the pie. And he was just kind of killing it. And he was a guy that was willing to take me under his wing. And I just kind of learned from him by osmosis. I mean, I gave him a whole list of people that were looking to buy and sell, and I just listened to him talk on the phone and go to appointments, and basically anything that he did involving real estate, I was there.
Yeah. And what are some of those things you've learned? I mean, I imagine like you're saying like the sales side and how to talk with people. Like, what are some of those takeaways you kind of picked up from him?
He's really aggressive. So
Okay.
I picked up a lot of that. I'm a very more people person kind of deal. So he's very more, he's Middle Eastern. So he's very good with like haggling.
Lots of experience.
Yeah. At some point I'm just like, okay, cool. And he would be like, no, let's like push it a little further to see what we can get. Like, no, okay. Which is fine. I mean, just, that's just his style.
Yeah. So just that type of style, you kind of picked up something a little bit different from what you're used to, essentially.
Yeah, I was pretty laid back. I mean, I'm a laid back person in general. So, if somebody's like, oh, you're not going to get that. And I'd be like, okay, well, whatever. Like, I'll just go to Home Depot and fix it myself versus like, him was like, no, we could do it this way and we could do it that way. And more like the structuring as well. So, I don't want to make him out to be like just some guy that's like a hard salesman, but no, he's like really good at what he does. And I'm just more personable. I think a little bit more personable than what he is.
Yeah, and I imagine everyone has a different tactic, a different strategy, and goes about it a different way. And not necessarily saying that one thing is bad or good. It's just that people have different styles, and you kind of figure that out. And how did you adjust then? Once learning from him, like, did you change your style at all? Did you be a little more aggressive? Did you just stay the same, or no, you didn't want to be that way? Or how did that kind of evolve for you then?
I just did it by trial by error. I mean, I just kind of saw what works and what works for me and kind of did it that way. Everybody has their own style in real estate. Some people like to get, all the documentation up front. I like to kind of see how the relationship kind of goes. Like, some people just don't want to work with you, and that's fine. Or like some people really want to work with you and you don't want to work with them. So a lot of times, like, there's been times I've actually had to fire clients because I just couldn't handle it. It was a really bad match, or
Yeah.
I gave it to a team member. So, I mean, just stuff like that is a really good example. Just, it's just a lot of conflict. You're dealing with people sometimes in a very high stressful situation in terms of their housing. So, people don't want to have a place not to live. They don't want to live in their car.
Yeah.
So a lot of times there is a lot of stress involved, especially with first-time home buyers.
Yeah, and working with a wide variety of people, how do you handle that? I mean, how do you know how to approach each person, you know?
That just comes with experience, but first-time home buyers, I kinda know just because I mean, it's a lot of fun for me to do first-time home buyers, there's a lot of challenge to it. So I just kinda know their stress points, I know if I say too much about this, and they're gonna be really, like, queasy, but if I kinda hold back and wait until day 2 or day 3, then they'll be more, acceptable. And then when you get into the higher price stuff, it's a little bit different because it's more based off of like being very private. So they don't want their information shared with other people. So you gotta kind of a lot of people also like they're used to having really nice stuff and high end service, so you have to provide that.
Yeah, and what does that look like for them? You mentioned like the high end service. Like, what are some of those things? I only had the perspective of like watching like $1 million Listing and those types of shows I've seen before. But what does that actually look like for you then?
They want to be treated with respect, privacy, and their needs are met first before all other people. So you just have to go into that knowing that. So, I just go into it knowing it. Even though I may have 45 other clients waiting to do the same thing, I still have to treat them like they're like the utmost importance. And that's
Yeah, so you're
kind of just what they're used
prioritizing them.
to. Yeah, that's what they're used to.
Okay, I gotcha. And then over time, I mean, how have you kind of changed your tactics or strategies with that over time as you've gotten more experience? Like, is there any like clear difference that you've kind of picked up on or learned, or just like working with them, you figure it out?
Branding has really helped me out a lot in terms of just social media stuff. So they know what to expect from me just by looking at posts and different stuff that I put out. And they either they really want to work with me or they know my style and they're used to that, or they just don't want to work with me at all because they know how I'm going to roll. So I think that's really helped me out a lot in terms of just kind of putting me on the map.
Yeah, and it seems like that type of if you have your niche or something within that, it's your style and they know what they're getting. So, you may turn some people away, it seems like, but other people will be like, yeah, that's exactly what I want. And it's what you need to do, it seems like.
Exactly.
And what describe like how you kind of got into the social media side of it, the branding side of it, how you got into that, and what are some of the things you initially did to get your name out there?
Originally, I was terrible, and I would treat Facebook kind of like a Twitter post. So I
Yeah.
would just be like, "I feel like pizza tonight," and then I would put that on Facebook, and like nobody would follow me because I mean that's just horrible.
Early Twitter days. Yeah, that was like
Yeah, but like I just had it totally in reverse. So there's a guy locally here named Ryan Stewman. He's a hardcore closer, and he has a different bunch of programs. And back in the day, he was ahead of me by a lot, and he was just doing classes and different stuff that he saw that worked. And I just kind of picked up on that and just started rolling with it.
Yeah, I love details and getting into a lot of things with tactics and strategies on it. So, like, what things like would you focus on then? Video? Did you do like writing posts? Like, what are some of those things that you did?
Anything I could do that was free. So I started out with just kind of doing a couple listings, and then I kind of saw what people liked, and then I tried different stuff. And at that time, ads weren't really a big deal on Facebook. So I would just kind of try different Facebook ads and see what people would like and not like. Then I started doing video, which was terrifying at the time because you're just pointing this thing at your face and like letting it rip, and people are like, "Who is this guy? God, this is awful. Like, I wouldn't buy anything from him." And then, it's just funny. And now it's like a totally different deal. But yeah, I did that. Anything that was free, and
Yeah.
then I just kind of experimented with stuff, and I'm still experimenting. I do a lot of like I listen to a lot of Gary Vee, so he's an inspiration
Yes.
for me. So like a lot of stuff that he talks about is a lot of stuff that I've done. I just never put like a name to it. So like I would try
Yeah.
different stuff, and I'd be like, oh, like this long form seems kind of cool, and I'd try it, and then I'd be like, oh, that worked pretty well, and he would be like, oh, it's called long form, and I'd be like, oh, that makes sense now, like it just I was doing stuff I just didn't know there was like names for it.
Yeah, I think the content marketing side of things is beneficial for a lot of businesses and especially real estate. I remember talking to someone actually pretty recently when I got into the MBA program and was in that and everything, talking about marketing. And they're, a real estate person. And I was like, mentioned a few things at Facebook they could do and some other stuff. It's like, yeah, they got a lot of traction from that. And it's important because we can do organic. You can do the free route with content marketing, but you can also experiment with some paid things. And I think something you mentioned with that is you really mentioned the experimenting part and kind of trying things out. And I think that's important. What were some of the things that worked best for you then?
Besides video and listings, those were like really the bigger ones. And then I kind of switched onto different platforms. Like LinkedIn was good for a bit, and then it got bad, then it got better. Like what it is now is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really fool around too much with Snap. I'd fool around with Instagram a little bit, but considering I'm not like a super hot woman, like a lot of people aren't going to follow me.
It is tough otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's all about finding like what you're really good at. And I'm really good at just like not caring. So like I'll
Yeah.
just throw something out and be like, "Oh, cool." And it'll be the weirdest thing, like something that I'll put out that I think is absolute garbage will be the most viral that I've gotten ever. That's really not what I'm looking for. I'm just looking to sell houses, but it's just funny to look at it and be like, wow, that got a lot of traction, and I look and sound horrible. It's just weird. It's just a weird deal. But the more you put out, the better traction you get.
Yeah. And to that point, I mean, how much are you putting out? What's your kind of schedule for putting out content then?
I've been stepping it up this year. That was one of my goals for 2019 was to add more. So my content is usually like a listing a day. It's usually across all platforms except Snapchat. I do stuff at night more than during the day. I find stuff that for the most part, people that follow me know me pretty well or are starting to know me pretty well. So I'll follow stuff or I'll put stuff up that's more on the economics of home buying right now and like kind of where the economy is. I day trade stocks and I have a hedge fund, so I have to pay a lot of attention to like where the market's going and what I see happening. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff. So people kind of watch to see like what am I posting, what do I think where the market's going to go, stuff like that.
So you have that separate from like the realtor, obviously business as well. Can you talk about that a little bit then? So how'd you get involved with that side of things?
I just started out like when I was a kid. My mom trades stocks or used to trade stocks, and back then it was like the Wall Street Journal or the Washington Post, and then you look at like the day before what they closed at, and then you like call somebody and put in an order. So now it's a lot different. You just go on the internet and do it from your phone even. So I got started kind of doing that as for fun, and now I'm licensed as a financial advisor. So I do it for fun with my friends and family and whoever else that's really interested. Just raise capital and trade and actually have a fund. And it's just kind of a fun thing I like to do. I like to do a lot of dumb stuff like Amazon's another one that I have, like an Amazon business that I do that I just like to compete. Like I have another buddy that trades stocks and I have another buddy that sells on Amazon. So it's just a competition thing. I just love selling. I love the competition of like trying to beat you.
Yeah, it's a fun thing to do. And then with the Amazon business, tell me a little bit about like how that got started and how that's grown since.
My buddy at the office, he has been doing Amazon for a couple of years now, and he turned me onto it. And it was some weird situation. We were in a meeting, and I think we were in like the wrong room or something. And we just ended up chatting about some stuff. And he goes, like I sell on Amazon. And I was like, well, how much you make? And he's like, oh, I did like 150,000 last year. And I was like, dude, don't even talk to me. Like I did 150,000 too. Like that's not a big deal. Like I sell real estate. And he was like, okay. And I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So then this year he did 850,000 in sales,
Yeah.
and I did 49,000 in Q4. So I was like, yeah, man, like, my hat's off to you. Like, congrats. But he worked. I mean, like, he would fly into different towns wherever they had a like outlet store, and
Yeah.
he would go like hog wild, like pack up a whole bunch of stuff in a car, drive from wherever he flew into all the way back to Texas with all the haul that he got. I mean, he was telling me some crazy stories, like getting pulled over, and the cops like, well, "What do you got in the back, son?" And he's like, "Well, I went to this outlet, and like I sell on Amazon." And I mean, it's funny.
So with Amazon for you though, how are you approaching it in terms of the products you're selecting and how are you kind of getting the word out there? Obviously it's through Amazon, so like they have their own thing, but how are you mostly on the product side? How are you choosing them?
I started out with books, and then I got into consumables, which is like grocery items, and that was cool. I still do a little bit of that in books. Now I got into toys, and that's okay. I have a buddy that is really like a toy collector. He was on a show called Toy Collector, So he points out like really good buys that he's going to buy himself that he thinks it'll sell, and then whenever stuff comes in, I'll just give him like the wholesale off of that.
Yeah, and in a good product, what are some of the attributes that you're looking for?
If you're gonna do consumables, it's like $1, so
Okay.
it's like more high volume. If you're gonna do toys, you're looking at like $10 to $15.
So you're just trying to look purely off of price, essentially.
Yeah, you're just trying to make that, as Gary would call the vig, or like the margin off of it.
So the margin is pretty low. So on the the consumables, you said it's $1, and then roughly like 10 or 15 on the other products.
Yeah, like the toys, like $10 to $15.
So that's how much you're actually making off each one, basically. And then, I mean, where are you getting these products from typically?
I have deals worked out with other people. Wholesalers is another one that you can do. I mean, I started out like, as nasty as it sounds, like I started out with like rummaging through half price books dumpsters trying to find good deals like through the dumpster because it was free. Or you can put posts up saying that like you're gonna donate books to school, and then
Okay.
people would give you books, and then you would, the ones that you aren't gonna donate to school, then you would just sell, and then just cut a check back to whoever you're gonna donate to.
So,
So
so
there's
you actually, the ones like from the dumpster, friends, like you actually sold those books? I'm just curious if you were able to.
yeah, of course.
Man, that's crazy. I
Yeah, I
didn't know
mean,
like how
it's
many
just
people
like
want books still that bad.
I've been doing this as a kid. Like when I was a kid, I'm a second generation immigrant to this country. So my dad was from Greece. My mom is second, I believe, immigrant to this country. Her parents were immigrants here. So when I was a kid, we didn't have eBay or internet or anything. What I would do is I lived in an upper middle class neighborhood. I would go through people's trash and they would throw away like a boom box or something, and I'd figure out how to fix it, and then I'd go on the corner on Saturday mornings and sell it to people. And people would drive by and be like, "Hey, isn't that my boombox?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, you want to buy it back for $20?" And they'd be like, "But it's my boombox." And I'd be like, "No, like it's fixed now." So yeah,
Right. Like you threw it away.
yeah. I mean, I was that kid. Like I'd fix people's cars. I would rake leaves. I would shovel snow. I would cut grass. Like I would sell blow pops in school. I was just like that kid.
So you always are entrepreneurial. Is it because of your family or just you kind of had that in you? Like, what do you think it is?
I don't know. Something happened when I was younger. We were talking about like how money works and that you would do something and somebody would pay you for that effort. And I was like, oh. And they're like, but you could also sell this item and then the difference would be profit. And I was like,
Right.
oh. And then like the light bulb snapped. And I was like, oh, so I could sell this toy to you for $10, but I got it for free. And they're like, yeah. And I was like, got it. And off we went.
That's amazing. Do you remember any other like ventures that growing up? Because I'm always curious about people's early ventures too, selling things.
I delivered flyers, and that was fun because I was a bad kid. So back in middle school, like we would do flyers, and the great thing about it was that you could hand out flyers for just like a couple of cars, and the rest
Yeah.
of them you could like throw away, and the rest of the day you just spend out like being a bad kid. So we would do stuff like that. I mean, we were just terrible kids, but there was just always an abundance of different side jobs that you could do. I mean, I used to move people for a summer in between school classes and stuff like that. And or school semesters, I would do stuff like that. Just anything I could do to like make a couple bucks. Also, like you could do like parking lots needed to be cleaned. So in the summertime, we would get leaf blowers and clean parking lots and get paid, and it takes about 10 to 15 minutes. Um,
Wow.
just stuff like that. I mean, it was just silly.
Yeah, but I mean, it's to that point, you have all these different options, I guess, for trying to make money or try to like have different ventures. Like, how did you decide which ones to do? Like, opportunity came up, you're like, oh well, I guess we'll do that. Try this. Like, how did you approach that?
Yeah, I mean, I just try it. I just look at the numbers and be like, okay, well, like, how many leaf blowing things do I have to do before I pay off the leaf blower? And then I'd be like, cool. Then everything else is profit. I'd be like, all right, cool. And then I'd be like, oh, okay, well, after a while, I'd be like, well, I made my money and then some. Like, this is kind of boring. Let's go try to find something else.
How long was that? Typically, you kind of got bored of stuff. Is it? I'm just curious if there's kind of like a repeatable pattern or not, or you kind of just you didn't really know. Is there a
I
certain
don't
time
know. It's
period?
just like after a while, you're just kind of like sick of it.
Do you think it ever happened in real estate?
There's been times I've taken time off. I mean,
Okay,
you
so
just
you
get
have.
burnt out.
And when you take that time off, then what does that look like for you? It's just like not trying to sell as many homes, or like I'm curious on what that looks like then for you.
It just depends. Like I've taken a while off, like a year. I've taken off like a couple days. I've taken off a week. Unfortunately, with real estate, it doesn't really stop. So
Yeah.
I used to be into mortgages. I used to have a mortgage branch. So as you can imagine, that was even worse because people were always calling you, like trying to get rates and refinance and purchase a home. But yeah, like it'll wear out on you. People, their stress becomes your stress, and then before you know
Yeah.
it, you're stressed out. So you need to take a break every once in a while.
Yeah, and I'm always curious because like entrepreneurs, work really hard, and real estate's basically like you're an entrepreneur essentially, and then plus your other ventures. When you take those breaks, what are some of those activities or things that kind of recharge you?
I just do something like completely off the green. Like I was making over $100,000 selling real estate and doing mortgages back when you could do both, and I was like, well, I'm just burnt out. Like I'm stressed out. Like I don't feel good. My health is terrible. I haven't gotten sleep, ever for a while. Like 4 or 5 hours of sleep just starts wearing you out day
Yeah.
after day. So I was like, I'm gonna teach bartending. So I taught bartending for like a year. Yeah, and that was cool.
You taught bartending? Wait,
Yeah.
explain.
So there's a school. I don't really want to mention the name just because
That's fine.
me and the owner aren't really too cool anymore. But yeah, like you go and pay a couple $100 for classes to teach you how to make like a rum and coke and Cuba Libre with the lime in there, or some random like a zombie or a blue Hawaiian, and then they try to place you at a bar or a restaurant that serve drinks, but when you're pushing that many people through, it's really tough to find people jobs. There's just not that many restaurant jobs open, and if they are, they're usually given to people with experience. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I did that. Just taught people how to make drinks, which was funny.
What else have you done? I'm just curious because it seems like there's probably other things, I assume.
When I graduated high school, I didn't go to college, so I started my own auto shop at 18, which is funny. I was racing cars. I was street racing, drag racing, back when it was like, there wasn't cameras on the road. So that was different. Everybody's like, "You're not going to school and taking the SAT?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just starting my own business. Working on cars."
How did that go?
It was okay. I was 18, so you know, I wasn't very focused on the job. I would just be like, "Oh, cool! Like I gotta go, swap out new headers today. I'll go by the shop." And meanwhile, like bills kind of packed up, and I was just like, like you want me to work on your car, like $5, like I wouldn't take it very seriously.
Yeah.
It's just kind of how I am
Yeah.
sometimes.
So you're just trying different things out and like experimenting, it seems like, with different things over time.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm curious that you mentioned the health thing too. Like you weren't taking care of your health. You weren't sleeping back then. Like, has that evolved now, or how has that changed to today?
It gets really tricky. Last 2 or 3 nights, I haven't slept well at all. Like maybe 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and then you kind of hit a wall, and you end up sleeping for like 12 or 14 hours.
Goodness.
Yeah, it just really depends on the stress level. Like when I was going through some pretty hard times, it was almost 2 years now. Yeah, I would sleep for like 3 or 4 hours on a couch and like wake up and try to find properties to pitch the next morning. I mean, it was just so bad at one point that, I mean, I was so broke. I was eating bacon and eggs for morning, breakfast, lunch, and dinner because I couldn't afford.
Really?
Yeah, all my money was going towards leads and zip codes, and I was stuck in a contract that I couldn't get out of. And people that are looking for homes, they start the process sometimes like a year or 2 years before. So people that we're talking to weren't even remotely close to doing anything in terms of buying anything. So I was just way over my head, and I was about to move into my car. I just leased this like brand new BMW, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be the talk of the town, and drive people around in this thing." And like, a couple months later, I'm about to move into this thing. So it was bad. It was a bad time.
So how did you get out of that? And that's
A lot of
crazy. Like,
hard
how did you
work.
get out of it?
A lot of hard
Yeah.
work. Just hustled, man. Just really, really hustled. I had to get a job, so that was the first part, and then I just started doing, like, all these small jobs that I could, like, get my hands on, and then I was like, "Okay, well," the contract finally ran up, and I got out of it. So then it freed up a bunch of cash flow, and then I didn't need all the side jobs, and then it was just gravy from there on out. But from that, I mean, that was low. I've been bankrupt once and close twice now, so I know the feeling,
Goodness.
and it's terrible. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can't imagine that feels good. But like you mentioned, just a lot of hard work and getting out of that. Like, how long did that even take to get to a place of, comfort or back to a place of normalcy again?
well, that's the tough part. So when I was younger, I was broke. Like when I started that shop, I was 18, 19, so I was pretty broke. But when you're that age, you're like living at home and uh, for the most part, and
Yeah.
you can kind of like, your bills aren't much. You're driving like a hoopty, and you're just eating whatever garbage you can eat. As you get older, like now I'm 41, and you just like I have an apartment, I have a car that's now a lease car. Like I just you have bills, and you can't afford to be that broke anymore. So
Right.
and it takes longer as you get older because you don't have the same amount of energy as you did when I was younger. So it's just different.
Yeah.
But I don't recommend it for anybody.
On the record, you do
Yeah,
not recommend that for anybody. Oh my goodness. And you said I think you've been involved in real estate for like how many years now?
over 15 years.
Okay, so over 15 years involved with real estate. What kind of role has that played in your life, having the real estate side of things?
It's great. It's a challenge. Every deal is a challenge. So you can never get bored, but at the same time, it's very stressful. Like if you could close a deal within 24, 48, 72 hours, life would be a lot easier than it is when it's like 30 days. Because it's 30
Yeah.
days of just agony and questions and small problems.
Yeah, and I have no idea with real estate, like how many deals are you like even typically closing? Like I don't have no idea how that goes. How many is it roughly?
It just really depends on how you're doing it. I mean, you can close anywhere from one deal to, you know, 10 to 15 deals. Just it really depends on how you structure it and if you have like a team of people helping you. And if you don't, like I usually, when I was younger, I didn't have a team and it was like super stressful. So
Yeah. Well, what's the team like now then that you have in place?
I got myself doing most of the residential and luxury, some help with the rental and commercial. And then we have property management and relocation. And I don't really handle that. I just mostly just kind of hand that off to people on my
Okay.
team. So it's a lot better. The next probably person I'm going to hire is going to be more of the admin and personal side, just because like all over the place with different stuff. And I have to like, get stuff banged out at like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. And it should be just, I could just hand it off to somebody. So
Yeah. And how long is it taking to get to that point where you're like, okay, I need this assistant probably to help me with this?
I don't know. I'm pretty hard headed, so it's taken me a long time. I'm sure probably somebody else in my stature probably would have done it like at least 1 or 2 years ago because you could just get so much more done.
So you would suggest people should probably get an assistant in your position in real estate, depending on where you're at, I
Yeah, if
guess.
you can afford one and it makes sense to you and you have the workload to do it, yes. But, like I was going to do it as like a pro rata, like per job I need done. So it's not so burdensome on the person. Because it's
Yeah.
probably going to end up being somebody I know. So it's probably going to be like, hey, can you do this? And I'll pay you $50. Hey, can you do that? Like as a bigger project, I'll pay you $500. Stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, you're saying. And where do you want to take this career real estate? Like, are you going to have like more people on the team and then just trying to expand? Like, how does that expansion work? What does it look like for you moving forward?
Yeah, it's going to get bigger. It's just a matter of time. So it's just because you intake so much that there's not enough time. Like I can't show 8 properties to one client and then turn around and show another 8 properties to the same client at the same time. I mean, it's impossible. So you just need other people.
Yeah. And along the way, you also wrote 2 books. When like ebooks, I believe, was it?
Yeah,
Or
two.
yeah. So how'd you write those?
They're just stuff that I always had in my mind and stuff that is not the stuff you find online. So it's just through experience. So a lot of people get really bad information and they go about, you know, using this information that they heard from other people, like you need to have 20% down, or your credit has to be stellar, or, you know, it's okay to not have grass in the front yard when you sell the house. I mean, just stuff that, like, you would just be like, what are you talking about? So I wrote that based off of, in my own words, just stuff that like I've seen and that needs to be corrected in life and people should know about.
Yeah. And just so people know, one of them is called 7 Home Buying Misconceptions, what every home buyer needs to know. And the other is 7 tips to help the highest value for your, to get the highest value for your house, what every home seller needs to know. And I'll link those as well in the show notes at justgogrind.com/podcast. But I think it's helpful to have that type of thing out there where you can, just get it out of your head into something that people can consume and get value from. I imagine it's been helpful.
Yeah, it has. I'm actually coming up with another book just for investors. It's just a basic book, and it's just strategy, like stuff that I've seen that works, stuff that people pay thousands of dollars for weekend seminars that they would get in their hands. And any of the listeners want a copy of any of the books, just message me and I'll give them to you for free. So just as a gift to you guys listening.
And where can they reach you?
Just social media or the website. So social media is Chris D as in Danger Bentley, and then the same thing for the website, Chris D as in Danger Bentley.com.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely make sure to link that so people can contact you if they want to. And then one thing I'm also wondering with the Plano Socialites, how did that get started?
So I moved to Texas from the East Coast, DC, Washington Metro, DC area, over 5 years now. So when I moved here, I only knew less than a handful of people. And it was a good friend of mine that I moved in with, and she only hung out with this particular group of people. And not that anything's wrong with them, but they just like to do a lot of like Saturday drinking. It's like a big thing here in Texas. And
Yeah.
like, I don't drink, and like I don't really like to waste a whole lot of time. So I was like, I need to find some new friends. So I just started a meetup group, and then that was okay. And then I moved from South Lake, or actually, like I worked in the South Lake area ish, and then I moved to Plano, and then it kind of exploded. So that was really cool. And then I just go and set up networking events and meet people that are, hustlers like me that want to talk about, making money.
Awesome. And what does that look like in terms of how many events you're hosting like every week, and where do you do these?
I have one main event every month, and then I have other events that I attend, and then I try to do like a brunch and a lunch and a dinner, just depending on my schedule, just to kind of go out and meet, because I'm going to eat no matter what. I'm a huge foodie, so I just like to eat with other people and just talk.
So you have a Facebook group and it has like 3,700 plus members in there. Like, what has helped that grow?
It started out with just originally the way it was set was that there was so many different events all over the place, and I couldn't figure out a way to like kind of put it all in one spot. Like I would go online and I'd see you went on LinkedIn or something, and I see that you went to an event last night, and I'd be like, oh man, that was last night. Damn, like I wanted to go to that. And then I'd go online and be like, I really want to go to this event, and then the event would go, like I would have it on my calendar, but it didn't send a reminder or whatever. So then like the event would pass, and then I would remember like a week later and I'd be like, oh man, like again, so I was like, I got to create like one place that just has all the events. And that's kind of where it started out. I just kind of created a group, and I was like, look guys, like these are all the events that I'm really interested in. If you want to go, like let's go. If not, like cool, I'll catch you the next one. And then it kind of started from there.
And how many years ago did you start this?
I moved here over 5 years, so probably like 4.5, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, thousands of members in this group is awesome. And so now, in terms of group online, are you just posting whenever you see events, or how does that work kind of with the online portion of it?
No, like I am really particular. So if it's an event that I'm going to, then it started out with just like I wouldn't post anything unless I'm going to it.
Okay.
Now that I don't have enough time, I don't go to enough events. So I would post it, and then if it's somebody that I know really well that's holding the event and I've been to it before, I would just say, hey, like go see so-and-so and tell them I sent you. And then people are like, oh, okay, cool. And then they go look for that person.
Awesome. And these events, I mean, you mentioned you're kind of just, they're brunches or lunches or like dinners or whatever. Like, how are you choosing the venue, and how many people typically kind of attend these events?
The brunches and lunches and dinners are pretty just kind of depends on the night. I mean, if it's like a nice night, and it's in the middle of the week, I may not expect to see a lot of people because they may be, on a patio somewhere
Yeah.
or with their loved ones. It just really depends. Usually, like my networking events are the most packed that I do, and just because they know that I'm going to be there, I'm going to introduce people to them. I'm pretty good at like just remembering what they do, so I can kind of match other people to them, and then they feel like there's a lot of good stuff, a good connection there, made it worth their time, and that's the whole idea.
Yeah. And so how do you run the networking events? Like, how does that work? Again, I'm always curious about like the venue and how you're getting people there and how do you kind of facilitate that and what the expectations are like beforehand you send to people and how does that work?
Yeah, I'll post it. All my events are free unless you're going to eat, and then you get to pay for that yourself. And I do that on purpose because I don't believe in charging people for networking. You can be a member of my group for free if you want to be on the website, and it's $50 for the year. I mean, it's super cheap. I do that on purpose because I don't want to charge people a lot of money.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'll post the event, I'll invite people, people will see it, I'll share it to a bunch of other groups that I have, and then just people just know that I'm hosting the event, so they've heard or seen or seen one of my videos, talk to me personally, a friend of mine, friend through somebody, and off we go.
Do you typically choose the same venue every time and what does that kind of look like?
It just depends. I try to like maintain it the same one, but sometimes it doesn't work out. Just really depends on management. I've been kicked out of a couple places just because it's either too big, or they just don't want that, or they're not set up for that type of event, or that amount of people. So it just really depends. It's like a lot of times I have to go there beforehand and talk to the manager and be like, hey, this is who I am. This is what to expect. Are you cool with that? And I don't know, except for one venue, I haven't met anybody that's like, oh, a bunch of people drinking booze and eating food. Like, I don't want that. Like, so I haven't really had a lot of pushback.
Yeah. And what are like the best venues? Like what types of things? Are these bars? Are these restaurants? Are these like, what are these?
I try not to do restaurants so much. It's just a bigger bar that I can push a lot of people through, and
Okay.
they don't have any problem. There's enough wait staff to accommodate.
Yeah. Okay. So that type of thing. So typically a big bar that has plenty of space so you can have a lot of people there.
Exactly.
Okay. Makes perfect sense. And you mentioned with the membership fee, is that new or how long ago did you just decide to do that for not membership, but for the actual being, highlighted, I guess, on the website?
I just started that. I just started a lot of stuff with SEO and Google and trying to figure that out. I got kind of tired of doing like the Facebook ads because everybody else is doing that, Instagram ads. So I'm kind of going old school and against the grain and doing a lot of like SEO and Google and like trying to place myself higher in the ranks. So I just did it as a way for people to commit. So I was like, well, if people pay money, then they'd be more committed than they would if they weren't paying money. So I just started that. And I hate charging people money for something that should be free. So that's why I just did it for $50.
And that's just to be featured though, right?
Yeah,
On
that's
your
when
website?
you're like actually a member and you'll be on the website and people could see you. They just look up your name. It'll be attached as a member of Plano Socialites.
Nice. That's awesome. I think seems like a smart way to kind of monetize, but still having it free. But then, yeah, if you want more exposure, then boom, you just pay $50 for the year, get your name and picture on there. It seems like a nice way to get a little revenue stream as well from that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really looking to make a whole lot. I mean, it's just a way to get people to be promoted. And I offer a bunch of stuff. Like I'll do a video, a Facebook video with you for a spot. I'll do a bunch of different stuff. You can post on there if you have like a job hire kind of deal. So just a lot of different stuff that people offer, but for less price.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I definitely can vouch for the SEO stuff. And we could always talk if you wanted to after as well, more in depth. But I've seen the traffic, from like my fitness site get thousands. I think it's still at like probably 3,000, 4,000 maybe unique visitors every single month. And I haven't posted in months, if not maybe over a year, all because I built up the SEO. And just one thing, those things that takes time, but once you invest in that, you can see some pretty good returns from that. And even when I moved, I was in Vegas at one point and moving and just doing like in-home personal training in Vegas. I never actually ended up doing any, but I prepped by writing an article or two and having a page about in-home personal training in Las Vegas. And I ranked within a matter of weeks, if not months maybe, for that term. So there is definitely a lot to be said for doing the SEO, and it's a long-term play, but it can have tremendous benefits in the end, though.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, the thing is, people, they're going to be interested in your services. They're going to want to look to see who you are. So the first thing they're going to do is Google your name, and whatever pops up is what they're going to go off of. So
Right.
you want to make sure you have some good stuff up there.
Exactly. That's the whole credibility. And yeah, having those videos and stuff too, like people get to know who you are and like what you're all about, which is very helpful. And as you've kind of moved through your whole career and some ups and downs and like, bankrupt ones and almost bankrupt a couple more times, but like what has been helpful for you in terms of like resources to help you in your career, whether it be books or podcasts or audiobooks or anything, like what's been helpful for you?
There's a lot of different stuff. So for myself, I watch motivational videos in the morning and at night. I rarely watch TV unless I'm at a bar. That's helped me out a lot. Just kind of like really focusing on positive. I cut out like a lot of people that just want to complain and sit around and complain about stuff. Um, I practice a lot of patience, and that's something that I've been really guilty of being really bad at when I was younger. I would be a lot further along my career if I just stayed the course and just was more patient about what I was doing. I mean, a lot of times, like I was already making money doing these small little venture deals, and if I
Yeah.
was, $3, $4, or $500 a month, and then at the time I was always comparing myself to other people and being like, oh, well, like so and so is doing, 21 million, and I'm sitting over here with like $500. Like this is BS. And then like if I just sat through it and just taken the treadmill laps on it, like I'd probably be a lot further along my business. So I'm a big practitioner of patience.
Yeah, I think it's an important thing. And to the point of patience too, kind of with managing your day and your schedule, how do you manage your schedule with all the things you're working on? Like, how does that look day to day, week to week?
Difficult. So during the day, I trade stocks, or I'm looking at the stock market pretty heavily. So that's consumes a lot of my day. In between that, I'm usually negotiating a contract or trying to set up showings or going out for a showing like I did today at lunch, which turned out to be like 8 showings.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, it gets kind of crazy. At night is usually when I kind of catch up with stuff. I have a bunch of side projects that I'm working on. Like I have a pitch deck that I have to complete. I have some other stuff that I have that third book that I'm working on. So I have like a lot of side stuff, but I also have stuff that I have to get caught up on, like sending out CMAs or following up on clients with emails and showing stuff like that. So it gets really hectic. And then you throw in Amazon, which you have to sit there and like put labels on stuff and box up. So it can get really, really hectic.
Sounds like a lot. Yeah. A
Yeah,
lot of
so
back and forth.
you just gotta, for me, and I don't recommend this for a lot of people. For me, it's kind of like sticking your finger in the dike, and then another hole pops up, and then you gotta stick that finger in the dike, and then so you're just kind of spinning plates all day long,
All day long.
and it just
Yeah.
gets really stressful. So I'm sure there's people out there that are a lot better at it than I am, and probably have a staff that can handle a lot more. But even if I had a staff, I would just structure and just build more. I'd be like, oh, okay, well that's done. I'll just start another project over here. So
I assume that you like to have multiple things going on. You love to have different projects, obviously.
yeah, I like that. I like to be busy. I like having multiple businesses. I like being busy doing stuff. Me standing around is like not exciting to me. So it's just not like, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's part of the self awareness that Gary Vaynerchuk talks about, knowing yourself, knowing what you want, and then just going after it all out. Like you know what you want, you kind of enjoy these different things, so you just do it. It's like it's what you have to do.
Yeah, it took me a while too. So this is a product of years of trying different stuff and like looking at different stuff and failing at different stuff too. So just didn't come overnight. I wasn't like, today I'll just be a really good salesman. And it's just like, no, like it just took time.
Yeah, and as we kind of wrap up here, you started so many different ventures, and failed at some things and succeeded at other things. But what is some of the advice you give to an aspiring entrepreneur?
I would not quit your day job. I would do something as a side hustle and see how well that works out and how long you can do it. Everything looks great on paper until you start doing it. And don't compare yourself to other people is another one. And then, of course, patience. So It's tough. It's really tough. Entrepreneurship is very lonely. There's a lot of nights of sleeplessness and a lot of nights of working really hard and a lot of nights of telling people, no, you can't go hang out and do different stuff. And it's just very lonely. Like I can't, we really don't talk about it enough. We kind of glamorize being an entrepreneur, but I I come home and I work. I go to work and I work. I go to the office and work. There's no really like a whole lot of like, hey, like let's go shoot pool tonight. Like there isn't a whole lot of that.
Is that something you would want more of, or I'm just curious on where you see that going moving forward?
It's just something I chose for myself. Like I've done a lot of that throughout my years, and now that I'm, at 40, for me, it kind of really changed my life. So I turned 40. I was on the phone with my broker, and I was like, you know what? Like, I just had it. Like, I'm tired of being just kind of okay and like kind of like good enough and like good enough to get into this and good enough to do that and good enough to win this award. Like, I was like, you know what? Like, that's it. Like, I'm just going to do it. Like, I'm just going to go all out. Like, I'm just going to work my face off and kind of after 10 years and see where I'm at. And that's just kind of like where I'm just at right now, where I'm just like, you know what? Like, all that noise, all that, this and that, this place and this club and this bottle and that and that and that. And I'm like, no, no, no. Like, I'm just going to focus 100% on making money and building businesses and kind of see where, after 10 years, where that ends up.
Yeah. And it's something, yeah, again, back to that self-awareness point, knowing what you want and knowing what you've been through and what's important to you. And it doesn't have to be forever necessarily, but I like that you said that 10 years or whatever it ends up being, it's like it is a certain set period of time. You're going to really push hard here, see how it goes. And, you can always adjust later on. Nothing has to be permanent necessarily. But yeah, if you want to make some moves, it's like, go after it. Why not? And Chris, just wanted to thank you for making the time today. And also, if anyone wants to reach out or connect with you, I know you mentioned earlier, but where can people find you and hear about you online?
Chris D as in danger Bentley.com. Chris D as in danger Bentley on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. I'm on Snapchat. I'm not really on it though. And just email as well. So, I mean, you can find all that stuff. You just Google my name. And, there's 8 pages of stuff about myself. So, yeah, feel free to
Awesome.
reach out. Questions, concerns, free ebooks. I'll hook it up for you.
Sounds great. Thanks for the time today, Chris.
Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Just Go Grind. As always, the show notes are over at justgogrind.com/podcast. And you can support the show over at patreon.com/justgogrind. And please leave a rating and review over on iTunes. It does help more people find the show. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Have a great day.